Hey there guys, Howie here. It is the 19th of April 2017. The market is closed for the day, and I thought it had been a while since I've done any kind of an update. To be honest, it was the long weekend last weekend. Nothing much happened last week. I took a few days off from doing anything. I've been not very active. The one thing I did was probably a mistake from a standpoint of taking time. So I'll give you a brief story. There was a news announcement last week on Thursday about legalization of marijuana in Canada, and a guy friend of mine suggested, or he wanted to purchase this APH, which is Alphera, which is basically the second largest Canadian marijuana supplier, and they're poised to potentially do good things in the future once it becomes legal in Canada. So long story short, without any real sort of thought process, I bought a bunch of shares of this, and I also bought a bunch more shares of the WEED stock. Now I've been buying and selling the WEED stock several times last week with a fair amount of success. So again, long story short, both of these I purchased at significantly high levels, and when the announcement came in, which was actually in here, both stocks actually dropped off quite a bit for several days. So you can see that, and then the same thing here dropped off for several days. So I guess what I've learned through this mistake is simply that if a news story is going to come out and it's a public knowledge news story and everyone is aware of the news story, by the time the news story comes out, the stock has already adjusted to that news story, and it's not like when the news is officially announced the stock is going to suddenly change or go up or anything like that. So unless it's some secret news story that no one knows about, that's a little bit different. But when it's something that has been announced for a month that this information is going to be given by the government, as soon as it's announced, between that time and the time that it is announced is the time that the market adjusts to this news before it even officially is told. So in a sense, a lot of people had been purchasing these stocks over the last month before the announcement officially came out, and then once it came out, a lot of these people sort of said, okay, announcement's made, let's get out of the stock or get out of these shares. So that's my story about last week. I'll show you the breakdown of the purchases made. I'll start with the oldest one I still have, which is this SJL, which I purchased way back on the 23rd of March. This is the one that I was able to sell off a portion of it. Whoops, where am I? Yes, right here, a small portion of it, basically half of it at 9 cents, purchased for 7 cents. And then since then it's gone down and it hasn't really recovered, and most of it actually has, I sold the rest except for just a few shares at 6 cents. So overall there's, I think, 500 shares left to sell. So once that closes out, it'll be a little bit of a winning trade, but not too much. LEM I've owned for the entire month of April, and this is one that, again, same thing. I had a sell at 75 cents. I was able to sell some of it, as you can see, 5,500 shares, but it never broke 75 again, and it's actually gone down quite a bit, and I had to put a stop loss at 58 cents on it. Now today LEM has fortunately climbed all the way back into the 68 cent price point, but it's actually got a pretty good gap on it. If I bring this over here, you can see that the buys are only at 64 cents, and there's not a lot of pressure to buy until you get down into the 60 cent range, and there's a lot of pressure to sell at 68. So it's conceivable it can go up, of course, into the 70s, but I'm not as excited about it. So what I may do is just keep my eye on it each day and maybe put a stop loss on it if it can get up above my buy, and just sort of attempt to get out. But I'll show you on here. If you look at the 1 month, for example, the daily. This is sort of why I was excited at 70 cents to get in, because it had had a downtrend with highs into the 80s in late March, and downtrended into 70. I thought it hit some support here in the 70 range and was due for a bounce back. Here's the 3-month again. So even back in February, it was well into the 80s and 90s. So when it was coming down here, purchased in this area, I was expecting, you got coming down, up, coming down. I was expecting this to carry over. And this date actually here is where my 75-cent sell of some of it. And then since then, you can see it's just been another fairly significant downhill. So it's possible the 68 cent close is just the start of something good, and the stock will continue to rise tomorrow. So I'll keep my eye on that. I might move my stop loss up again, like I said, to a little bit tighter as well. So next on the docket, we have CJC, and this has been one that, again, I've held for several weeks, has done very little. Purchase at 12 cents a unit, and I'll show you the chart on it. Oh, you go. Here's the 3-month chart on it. So as you can see, I purchased it in here, and it looked like it had tremendous support in the 11-12 cent range, 11.5 and 12 cent. It had come up to 14, 15, broke down here, and I was expecting it to maintain for a while and hopefully come back up. I have a sell at 14 cents, which obviously has not been triggered, and it's been very, very non-moving, very, very stagnant for quite some time. So that's one I'm just sort of sitting on. I could sell it now at a 1 cent loss, which I really don't want to do. I'll bring in again the level 2 stuff. So you can see there's a tremendous purchasing desire at 11 cents, and then even more at 10 cents. But there's, again, some resistance. Great deal in the 14 cent and 15 cent range. So again, not much happening with that for a couple weeks, but I'll just be sitting on it for now. And so now we have LXE, which I purchased on the 11th of April. This stock, I have a limit sell at 239 for the upside, and I have a stop loss at 223 on the downside. And I'll bring it up LXE right here. So purchase at 229. So let's bring it into like the last month. So I purchased it in, where are we? Purchased April 11th. So I got it at the downside right here on April 11th, and I was, again, it had come up. It felt like it was consolidating in here, so I sort of liked it to retrace up to about $2.40, give or take. So, but the same idea. It's bounced around a little. You look at the 10 days, you look at the hour, and you can see it's been bouncing quite a bit between 235 and 230. But I do like the support it's getting at 230. So I'm just basically still sitting on this one again and hoping to get some pop from that, but not too much volume. I guess it's had a fair amount of volume, just not too much movement on it, so I will continue to hold that one for now. Now these three, so it was April the 12th when these were purchased. These were 3 large orders on APH, and again on APH later that day, and then on the weed stock. And the APH, this first one was my friend asking me to purchase on his behalf right at market open, which was, it gapped up, I believe, so it opened very high. And so April 12th, it just bring up like a 10-day. So April the 12th, you can see it was sitting here right in it had got as high as 820. And so this was sort of when the announcement was made in here, and you can see just a tremendous drop off for several days, all the way down to 660 it hit right in there. So you can see a drop from 820 to 660 is very significant. And it was the first real large drop, so you can see a good steady upflow for the last 3 months, and this was a significant drop back down to levels it hadn't been in about a month. So this could be overextended here. 1, 2, 3, 4 big up days in a row, volume ramping up, and then obviously a pretty big sell-off, and then another pretty big sell-off. So again, this was just a mistake of not really analyzing the situation, just kind of jumping in and making some assumptions, which were not good. But so this is my side of things, the 765. I don't have a loss or a sell point at this point. I'm just watching it every single day and just sort of seeing. It did have an update today. You know, pretty decently. It sold off a bit at the end, but it hit, you know, 715 or so. And I think it still eventually will, you know, get back up in these $8 ranges. It's just when, you know. And then the WEED was the other one that I purchased alongside of that, and that was purchased at 1021. And we actually got back to there today. So this is again the 10-day. So I purchased in here and dropped all the way into the 940s. And with both of these, as I'm watching them, obviously hindsight's 2020, but my mindset should have been let's hear what the news is, let's watch the stock, and then let's evaluate, because I certainly would have been able to get into both of these, you know, anywhere in here when I see it get into the 660s, 650s, and then for this one in here, I may not have been able to get this 930, but even if I could get this 960, 970 as opposed to buying it at 1020, I'd be looking pretty happy. So this WEED, I do have a sell order at 1030, which I unfortunately missed because I didn't have it on for this upswing. In the morning I watched this, and I tried to put it on, but it had already dipped below 1030 when I did. If you look at the 5-minute chart today, you can see this just huge spike. Within 5 minutes, the stock went from 1008 to 1037, and then almost immediately dropped back down to 1010 from that point. So I didn't get the sell-off during that point, but I do have it on for going forward, and hopefully tomorrow it opens and has some upside, and we can sell it off at 1030, which would be, you know, 9 cents per share profit, which isn't that fantastic, but not too bad. And then the last one, this TA was just a quick purchase, purchased at 750, and I had a sell order at 759 and a stop loss at 744, and hit the stop loss just a few days later. So lost a wee bit on that one, no big deal. And this one I purchased 2 days ago. PWT, purchased at $2.05. It was something that triggered. I have a stop loss at 220, or not a stop loss, I have a sell order at 224 and a stop loss at 195. 204 right now. Dipped. It was up a bit yesterday. Let's look at the 5-day. So it's sort of been coming down quite a bit, but I did like it because if you look at it sort of in a big history, it has, I think, a fairly good upside, and you know, it's hitting close to its lower points. But I am going to move my stop loss on this, because if you look at the level 2s on it, there's a tremendous support at $2 and at 201. So I have my stop loss at 195, but I think if it dips below $2, then I'm concerned it could go significantly lower. So I'm going to put my stop loss at 199 to protect myself a little bit. So that is the full update as to where we're sitting now. So Obviously, these 3 shares are taking a considerable amount of my resources, so I'm sort of sitting on my hands right now. Hopefully the WEED stock goes tomorrow. It'll open up some capital to do some more things, because I did have some things trigger today that I wasn't able to invest in because I'm pretty tied up. I'm not very liquid right now. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this update, and I will be talking to you soon. Thanks.